Have the Jacksonville Jaguars just given the Chicago Bears a path to trade for a top 5 pick without giving up much in return? We'll talk about it all and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host, Sarah Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go and get into this content for today, y'all. We are knee deep into NFL draft rumors. We are a couple of days away from the NFL draft, and I, for one, can't wait for this to be over. But with that said, we got to report on everything that could affect our Chicago Bears. And Jeremy Fowler recently pointed out that the Jacksonville Jaguars could take Ashton Jeanty at number 5. But Tom Pelissero from the NFL Network pointed out that the Jaguars are actually open up for business to trade out of the top 5 pick for the right package. Now, this, interesting enough, is some precedents that's set for that, right? We all know the Las Vegas Raiders are commonly mocked to go after Ashton Jeanty at number 6. So Chicago Bears potentially moving up to make sure that they can get a guy that they have been rumored around literally since this draft process started could make some sense, right? The question, though, is, and I let me be clear, I'm somebody that I am firmly against the Chicago Bears trading up. I think at this point you keep your picks. You worry about things where they sit where they may. You just figure it the hell out, right? But with that said, if the Bears do have Ashton Jeanty identified as the guy that they absolutely want in this draft, you know, they could be willing to move on to that. Now, I agree with Crimson here in the comment section. Crimson says, hopefully they trade back, not up. That I'm aboard that boat with you, my brother. But let's talk about it, right? How much would it cost for the Chicago Bears to trade up with the Jacksonville Jaguars at number 5, right? And you know, in this article, they point out that in the 2023 draft, the Arizona Cardinals traded with the Detroit Lions to go from number 12 to number 6. The Lions sent the number 12th pick, a second rounder, and a 5th rounder to Detroit for the number 6 pick and a 3rd rounder. Now, that is a pretty steep concept for me to wrap my head around, right? Yeah, you're getting and they got the 6th pick and they got the 3rd round pick in that case, right? That takes up for giving up a 2nd round pick. I'm not too mad at losing the 5th rounder if that was the case when it came down to it, right? And with the Bears having the picks that they have in the 2025 draft, we have 39, 41, 10, 72, and 148 at 5th, right? They have the assets to get it done. So if you can get it done for one of your 2nd rounders and the 10th pick, is that worth it? And listen, and you guys know, I understand the talent that Ashton Jeanty is, and I want to make sure that I'm clear on this. This is in no way me saying that Ashton Jeanty is not talented, but I think with the talent that you have that you can get in the 2nd round at the running back position, I think in a lot of drafts, Travion Henderson or Quashawn Judkins could be the first running back off the board. That's the way that I view it, right? And so I think that trading up and giving up that type of assets to move up for a position that's deep in this draft and a position that historically, unless you're getting a generational player there, which maybe Ashton Jeanty is, right? To move up that high, I have my trepidation about it when it comes down to it, right? I'm not mad at the Bears hoping that Ashton Jeanty falls to number 10. I'm not mad at that, right? But to move up to 5 to try to get him and give up one of your 2nd round picks, which means that not only are you, I mean, if you get a 3rd back in that case, maybe, but I just honestly don't know how to feel about it, man. I don't know how to feel about that. I don't know if that's the best use of assets. I don't know if that's the best case for the Chicago Bears either, but maybe that's just me. And I can admit it. Like, I just have a lot of kind of concerns over moving up in this draft with the number of talented running backs that are in this draft. That's just my personal opinion. But we'll see. And the one thing that I will say about this is that if the Bears really believe that much in Ashton Jeanty, if they think that he is the guy that is a can't miss prospect in this draft, I will respect them being aggressive about going up there and getting them. But I'd have a lot of questions about the impact that has later on the draft board for the Chicago Bears personally. But we'll see what happens there. Maybe it's something that I'm just overlooking. What up, Hayes? I'll be at the draft party at Soldier Field. Can't wait. Shout out to you. That's major, bro. Hopefully you have an amazing experience there, which you should. Second rounder and the 10 pick. I mean, if that's all it takes, I'm not necessarily against it. But like I said, man, I don't know. If we trade up to get a running back, me and Pat are flipping tables. Listen, I wouldn't blame you for it. I wouldn't blame you for it. Like, especially like there's so many talented running backs in this draft. And that's what I keep going back to. It'd be different if like the gap between Ashton Jeanty and the other running backs, like let's say that Ashton Jeanty was in this draft and every other running back was kind of like, oh, they're okay, but maybe they're third round prospects, right? Then maybe I can understand if you wanted to make sure if there was such a steep fall off, but I don't know, man. It's just where I keep sitting at it, man. I don't know where it comes down to it. Broski Bear says Bears better not trade up for the Mountain West midget. Don't do that. Don't. And I guarantee he's probably taller than you, but don't do that. Like I said, this isn't for me. It's not to knock on Ashton Jeanty at all as a prospect. You just got to think about the best allocation of your assets when it comes down to it. For me, that's what it comes down to. I'm not going to knock Ashton Jeanty. Ashton Jeanty can still be a great player, but it doesn't mean that it's worth trading up and losing out on assets to get that done. That's the way that I look at it, right? So, we'll see what happens when it comes down to that. Online makes the whole offense better. Yeah, theoretically, absolutely. I mean, I say theoretically isn't fair. Yeah, it can make it better for sure. So, we'll see what happens there. But, I mean, if you pair this in with the comments coming out of, Rick Eisen, who says that he believes that Will Campbell and Ashton Jeanty could fall to the Chicago Bears at 10. I don't know if I believe that, right? Now, he also said that Tyler Warren could be there. If it plays out the way that some people have this shook out to play and that Ashton Jeanty makes it past the Raiders, I do think that you have a situation in which Tyler Warren and Ashton Jeanty could be there at number 10 for the Bears. It really depends on how New York, Carolina, and New Orleans really evaluate their picks and what they want to do there at the draft. And so that's the risk that you play in this as well. Like, I'm perfectly fine waiting to see if Ashton Jeanty falls at 10. If he falls at 10, cool, great, take him. It was fate, right? But moving up to the top, so I don't know, man. I don't know. I feel like every team ahead of us is trying to play us into trading up for a running back. I agree with you there. And that's the thing that you also have to factor into this, right? Everybody's posturing right now. Every single team is posturing right now. And I do think that after around pick 12, I think that there are going to be a lot of trades in the first and second rounds. I think there are going to be a lot of trades for teams moving up, moving back, those type of things in the second round of this draft. And I think the Bears have to really kind of wait for that. I don't want to see the Bears reach for a running back. I just don't. I don't want to see them reach for a running back. We can still draft Jeanty and get O-line in the second. Yes, you can. It's not a question. They can get both regardless, right? But here's the thing. The fall off of the O-line, if, for example, Will Campbell, Kelvin Banks, right? Armand Minbao. Those three guys are I think there's a bigger gap between those three guys and the tackles you can get in the second round than I think that's what's between Ashton Jeanty and Quashawn Judkins, if that makes sense, right? Like, that's just the way that I view it. I'm not saying there's not a gap between Ashton Jeanty, Travion, and Quashawn, and even Amarion Hampton. There's a gap there, but I think that gap is less than the gap between the three tackles that are going in this first round and the tackles that are going to go early in the second round. I think there's a larger gap there. Still not a huge gap either, right? So either way, I don't think you're necessarily looking at like some huge chasm of a gap, right? Like you're not like it's not Kim Kardashian level gaps out there. It's not that, right? So it's not that level of a gap there, but there is still a gap there, and I think that it's a little bit bigger in getting that. Not a theory. Swift is not great, but he's a Pro Bowler behind Philly's O-line. Swift is a lot better than you're making it out to be. We've had that conversation before, but it is in theory because nothing's for sure in the NFL. Nothing's for sure in the NFL. And that's what I mean by in theory. There's not anything that's 100% sure. There have been a lot of teams that thought that they had it figured out. The Bears being one of them at times, that things have gone very, very left. Second round is more important than the first pick. Tyler Warden with Trayvon Henderson would be crazy. Yeah, but I don't think you double down on offense. That I think you go tackle at that point. Now you do have 2 second-round picks, so theoretically you can go that. But again, Tyler Warren is also a luxury. And I know that's not commonplace for people who are in the Tyler Warren boat, but I see Ashton Jeanty helping the Chicago Bears a lot more than Tyler Warren, because you do have Cole Kmet, who I think is going to go back to playing really good under, when it comes down to it. If Campbell, Graham, and Jeanty is there at 10, which I don't see, you get them. Agree with that. And that's what it comes down to. Like, if any 3 of those guys are there at 10, I grab those guys, right? So Bears junkie. I mean, listen, it's not a Kim Kardashian level gap. 3.8 per, yeah, but that 3.8 was behind one of the worst offensive lines in football, right? And that doesn't mean that he's a bad running back. The offense as a whole was terrible last year. He still had 1,400 yards from scrimmage behind a bad offense. That's not to say that he's not good. DeAndre Swift is a good running back. He's a good running back. And to use that performance in that, like, the offense sucked as a total last year because of play calling, because of the offensive line, and because of poor performance as well as a whole. Quite honestly, I see the top guys gone. Do we go after Mikel or Kevin? That's a great question. I think that if all the top guys are gone, which I don't know if I see the draft board falling out where all those guys are off the board, but let's say for the sake of this conversation that they are, I think at that point you trade back. I think that at that point you trade back because the talent that you can get there is pretty solid there. Jags might give us their pick because you don't really look like they're in win now mode. But hey, what do I know? They're not going to give you the pick. Like, that's just not going to give you the pick. That's not going to give you the pick, right? But you're going to have to give up something to help to entice them to give them the pick, especially trading down. So, yeah. I'd only respect a trade up for $100,000. Well, nobody gives. I'm sorry, and I'm saying this to be frank. I say this about me too. Like, I'm saying this about nobody gives a fuck about your respect. Like, they care about what they view as what's best. Nobody cares who you have on your board. It's about how the Bears evaluate the talent. They don't give a shit about any of our respect. That's my point. Finish the O-line. That's how you win in NFL football. You also need to win with talent, right? You also have to have that. But it's not disagreeing that the O-line helps the team, but you said Swift wasn't good. That's just not factual at all. Will the 2 second-round picks be strong enough to move back into the first round? They could. I think that because they're high enough, they're 39th and 41st, right? So they're high enough into that second round where you could move back into the first round. I don't know if it better be a hell of a player that fell into the late first round if that's what you're going to do. I see Dallas making the jump. I could see us making the trade, then grabbing Mbao. We'll see. I would love us to get Armand Mbao, even though you murdered spelling of his name. I like Omarion Hampton. He's 6 foot, 220 pounds, and athletic with pass catching ability. Elijah Aurora in the later rounds. They both block well. Here's the thing with Hampton is just at that place where I think he's just at that spot where it's between the Bears picks, right? So if the Bears do happen to, to trade back into the first round, then yeah, Hampton could definitely be somebody. I mean, they brought him in for a top 30 visit for a reason. So, Hayes, am I tripping, or does Hampton and Judkins fit better for the scheme than Jeanty? No, I think Jeanty fits perfectly well in the scheme. I think that that Hampton and Judkins fit better with a contrast of running styles with DeAndre Swift. I definitely think that's the thing there, right? So, I overall, like, the Bears can go a lot of routes, and a lot of routes that make really solid sense for the Bears as well, right? Who's your sleeper prospect or prospects? Billy Bowman Jr. is a guy that I've talked about a whole lot, and I don't think enough people are talking about him, especially at a position that the Bears. I do think that the Bears are going to definitely address in this draft the safety, or I think they should address in the draft in safety. And then another guy that I think is RJ Harvey out of UCF. He's another guy that I think is a really big underrated talented running back in this draft. Personally, that's just my personal opinion. But there are a lot of guys. Donovan Jackson is another guy that I think it could really shock some people with how good he can be at the NFL level. That I think hasn't really gotten as much acclaim, but I kind of understand it there. And another guy is Amari Knight, the offensive tackle there. Be on the lookout for Amari Knight. I'm telling you, that's a guy that I 6'7", 315 pounds. I think this is a guy that he can go day 3. I think that he can be really good, really, really good at the NFL level. If they move up in the top 5, who would you take? Jeanty? Well, ideally is to take Jeanty. I don't think that you have to move into the top 5 to take Tyler Warren. Maybe it is Will Campbell. Maybe the Bears pull a swerve and move into the top 5 just to get at Will Campbell. I'm not mad at that either. King Book of World says, bottom line, just get the right guy. You're not wrong. You're not wrong on that at all. That is the overarching thing here. It's just go out and get the right guy and guys overall when it comes down to it. So we'll see what happens here overall, man. But I think that it's the Bears are shaped up to do some special things in this draft. I think this is going to be a really big draft. You guys know we're going to be live for the draft, to talk about everything that's going to happen here, man. And we'll see. Shout out to, I don't know if that's Bobby or C-Dub, but shout out to the brothers there, man. But let's talk about what would surprise you guys in this draft, right? Like, what are some things that could be a big surprise for the Bears in this draft? And I would say outside of potentially reaching for a running back, which is something that I'm worried about the Bears doing in this one, I would say this is that look out for some team to try to trade up with the Chicago Bears and get a player where we still get our guys, right? Like, that's the thing that I'm really looking for sure. Rod said, you think it's a smokescreen? Raiders don't draft Jeanty and get someone. I do. I think there's a lot of smoke screening in this draft, to be 100% honest with you. I think there's a lot of teams that are posturing in this draft, that are trying to kind of fill out where other teams may go, where the team's mindset is, so they can see if they can get their guy, right? There's a lot of that going on because I think there are going to be a lot of teams in this draft that their number 1 guy on the board could very well fall past number 12, for example. And if that happens, that's where a lot of teams are going to be trying to move on, right? So we'll see what happens there. But I really think that there is a lot of smoke, and I think the Bears are doing some of that as well. I think the Bears are doing some smoke screening here, and they should be, right? That's the whole chess match of the NFL, right? People like to think that the chess match happens just on the football field. That shit happens between front offices every single time, right? Every single time. Trading up for Abdul Carter would be a surprise. Also taking a cornerback in the first. If they take a cornerback in the first, that would be a huge surprise. Will Johnson is a guy that we've heard talked about around the Chicago Bears a little bit. And with how Dennis Allen really likes to use defensive backs, I maybe could see it, but I think that's like if everybody else is off the board, right? So, like, if you're looking at the Bears trade up scenarios, right? Abdul Carter is a potential player that the Bears could trade up for. I think what he brings at the edge position when it comes down to it, last season with Penn State, 68 tackles he had, 24 tackles for a loss, 12 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 4 pass breakups as well as a defensive lineman. Abdul Carter is somebody that if the Bears were to move up and try to get, I wouldn't be mad at. Will Campbell, we already know. I don't give a shit about that arm length. I don't give a damn about none of that shit. I care about the dog mentality that dude has at playing tackle. And once Dan Rouchar said, I don't care about his arm length. I've seen players, he's going to be a fine tackle in this league. That put me confidence in it. A guy that would be really surprising, really, really surprising, but I will say this is probably would be the biggest shock of anything. But he solves a couple of needs for the Chicago Bears. Travis Hunter. Nobody's talked about it because I don't think if there's probably a 0.00092% chance that the Bears draft Travis Hunter. But here's what I'm going to tell you. What he brings at cornerback and how Dennis Allen can use him, crazy. Him as a slot receiver under a Ben Johnson system, where he had 96 catches, 1,258 yards, and 15 touchdowns. Then when you look at the defensive side of the ball, 36 tackles, 1 tackle for a loss, 4 interceptions, 11 pass breakups, and a forced fumble on defense. I don't know if the Bears would do it, but I'll tell you what, and I know he's been mocked to go to Cleveland. They ain't gonna use him, right? But I think Travis Hunter, you talk about moving to positionless football, Jesus Christ. I love the kid. There's no way that the Bears draft him. Mason Graham, of course, is a trade up potential, especially with the Bears having him number 1 or number 2 on their board. That's a possibility as well. And then Ashton Jeanty. I really think those are the players that you're looking up as potentially trade up scenarios for the Chicago Bears, in my personal opinion, right? If the Bears draft Will Campbell, who are your top 2 guys for round 2? If the Bears draft Will Campbell, my top 2 guys are Donovan Jackson, and they're both from OSU. Donovan Jackson and Quashawn Judkins or Travion Henderson. That's the 2 that I'm looking for in the second round, personally. Trade down with the Steelers, and we could draft Josh Simmons. That's another guy that I do like for sure. I love Josh Simmons in this draft. Just not at number 10 where the Bears pick, right? I really do see that trade back happening where we get Grant, Judkins, and Watts as our first 3 picks, then maybe even Essery in the 3rd round. That's a great draft. That's a great draft. I mean, Doug, that would be a great draft from top to bottom for the Chicago Bears for sure. Travis Hunter would be a dog on this team, especially if he would be allowed to play both sides under Dennis Allen and Ben Johnson. Oh God, it's scary. Travis Hunter is such a special athlete, man. And I do think that he does have a little bit of that potential to play some two-way ball, which is something we don't see in modern football anymore, man. I would love to have him. Like, when you talk about just guys that just just play football well, right? That's Travis Hunter. He's just a dog, bro. I would love him on this team. No problems with him potentially being a Chicago Bear, but it's not going to happen. He's going to go way too high in this draft for that to even be a real conversation, unfortunately, for the Chicago Bears. But, we'll see what happens there. But yeah, overall, like, I'm really excited about the draft. I may do morning episodes leading up into the draft. Like, honestly, the way that my days have shook out now, like, I have this large gap in the morning. For most of you that know, I still have a full-time job for the next 6 weeks or so before I stop doing that and focus. I'll be a full-time creator after that. But I have this large gap in the morning from about 7:45 till 9 a.m. And instead of just because I've been pre-recording Chicago Bears Central and posting it, I just don't want to run into what Pat the designer does. Like, y'all know, that's my brother. We do Locked On Bulls together. And he does the morning breeze. So I never want to step on his toes there. But like today, I saw that he wasn't live and didn't have one scheduled. So I was like, fuck it, I'm going to go live. So if as long as Pat isn't live at that time, I'm probably for the rest of this week going to do morning live streams, and we'll see how that shakes out for the channel, man. But all right, y'all. Thank you guys for tuning in, man. I appreciate you guys. You guys are amazing. Make sure you guys are following us at Shy Bear Central. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, chicagobearcentral@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and or voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the number 1 spot for everything Chicago Bears related, but that's thanks to you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, but bear down. Love you guys.